Hello everyone. So today it's about the request and the limits in Kubernetes. So this is the very important topic which you should understand as a beginner. Okay. So we'll start with these topics first. Introduction. We'll cover why it's required, and also we'll see how you can assign a request and limit to a particular pod, and some practical demo we'll see, and the common error which we get. Okay. So let's start with the request and limit first. Okay. Introduction. So to understand this, you need to understand first thing. Suppose you are having a one node, okay, and this node is having like specifications of 8 GB of memory and some, let's say, 4 CPU cores, okay, and you are running a application, okay, in a pod. So that application, if it consumes all of your 8 GB of RAM, for example, if this application may have memory leak, or it might need some more memory to execute, so in that case what will happen? Obviously this application will be crashed and you will get a error called OOMKilled, okay, that means out of memory. So in Kubernetes, how you can control these things? So for that you have this request and the limit, okay. So in request and limit, what we do, we assign how much CPU or memory we need. For example, what we do, we just write a resource block, okay. In resources we'll be having a request, and there will be having the CPU and the memory. So for the CPU and memory, you will just define how much CPU and memory that pod can request. Okay. For example, you define here one, and here you define some 4 4 GB in case. Okay. So what will happen, this pod will basically able to request this much of CPU and memory at any cost. So that is basically the minimum requirement it will ask to Kubernetes. So based on this request only, whatever your scheduler will be there, it will see if this request is possible, then it will schedule your pod onto some nodes. Okay. So this is about your request. Now the limit, what it is? So limit is nothing but here we'll add CPU and memory, and here we'll define how much CPU and memory that pod can use maximum. For example, I will just say it can use two CPUs, and it can use 8 GB of RAM max. Okay. So in that case, that pod will be able to just use this much of CPU and memory, and if it exceeds this limit, if it exceeds this memory limit, then it will like get, that pod will be terminated with this particular error. But if it try to breach this limit of CPU, then your application will basically, it will become slow. So there, that we call as the CPU throttle. Okay. So this is about the request and limit. And what else we have? So why it is required, I covered. So just to control the resources of your nodes, and how we can assign request and limit to a pod. So that also we saw, like we will be just assigning resources, and then we'll be having a request and then the limit. Okay, that I will just show you how you can assign it into a particular pod. So let's start with a practical demo. So let me just open up my terminal. Okay, so now what I will do over here, I will just go into the Kubernetes series, and I will create a not video, folder with name request limits. Okay, and I will also try to just copy the some of the pod over there. Okay, so here I have one pod with the service, and I would need in the default namespace itself. Okay, I think my pod is already there with this name. Something will be there, so I need to choose some different. Okay, one my pod is there. I will just try to delete this kubectl delete pod, my pod. I hope it's not a deployment. Okay, so in this pod.yaml, what we are going to do, we will be just defining the block of resources. Okay, And under this particular block, what we'll be doing, we'll be defining the request and the limit. So under the resources, we will be having request, and then you will be defining CPU in case, so whatever CPU you need. So for example, we define just 100 millicore. So here M is basically millicore. So 1000 millicore equal to 1. Okay, that is what the one CPU core. And then we'll be defining the memory. For MB you can use MI. Okay, so if I just need some 250 MI, so it will just request this much of CPU and memory to the Kubernetes. And limit we can just add over here, like you can just add the maximum limit whatever you want to do. So you just limits will be the CPU. Let's say if I want my pod to use max of 500 millicore, and the memory to be also the 500 mi. Okay, so if I just save this particular and try to use, unable to parse quantities suffix are. Okay, it's because of some this only. Why it's not able to parse? Let me just check. 100 millico. Acha, this one will be the capital. Okay, just save it. Okay, now your pod has been created. If I just do the get pods over here, so you'll see this one is getting created. And if I'll just try to describe, so we can see somewhere the request and the limit what we have defined. You can see in the resources the limit and the request which we have defined over here. So in this way you can just define the limits for your uh, particular pod. Okay, so now also one more thing is there. If you have to see the like what is the memory and CPU pods are using, you can just add do this top pods. But currently it's not, it will not work. So for we need to enable one metric server. So for that you can just use this command minikube add-ons enable metric server. Okay, is not a valid add-on. Okay, I think need to search. Mm, I think it will be metric server, not metric. Okay, so once this is enabled, now we'll be able to see. It will take few seconds or few minutes of time to just come up. So we'll just wait, and by that time what I will do, I will just show you one more example. So here you will see I have just written a particular this YAML. So here we are using one image name called stress. Okay, so stress is one tool which we use for load testing. So there you can just define how much CPU and memory you want to use from a particular node wherever it want to run. So this command will basically run inside a pod. So there we can just assign the limits and also here I'm requesting 64 MB and limit we have added 128, but we are giving it to use 200 MB. So with that what will happen, this pod will try to use this much of memory, and obviously it will request 64 for scheduling, but limit it will see as 120 128. So when this will breach, in that case what will happen, that pod will become OM killed, that will be dominated. Okay, so let's just do this particular. So how we can do it, so let me just copy this and okay, still it's not available. Okay, we'll just see at the last. Okay, so what we can do, I can just create a memory dot yaml. Let's just apply. Okay, now if I just do kubectl get pods, so you will see memory demo, it's currently running. If I just do -w to watch, so now you can see it is OOMKilled, and then crash to back off again, it will then start. So in this way you can just see uh, how the memory is getting killed, sorry, how the pod is getting terminated because of the memory. Okay, so now if I just show you, so this issue also comes in the production environments when if you're using some of the like application which needs more memory but you have given some limits, so that memory will, if that limit will breach, then your pod will basically killed. So if I just do the qctl describe pod and the memory demo, so you will see over here in the reason, so reason is basically OOMKilled, and the you need to also make sure of this exit code. So whenever there is will be exit code of I think 1, so that will be the OOMKilled. Okay, so yeah, in this way you can just see the error as well. Like, and also you can use the describe command to check, like if your pod is getting crashed or backup of anything, you can just see the reason over here. Okay, now let me just check this qctl top pods. Okay, now you can see here top pods we have, and my pod you can see it's using zero memory, like sorry, 0 millicore of cpu and 8, this one 8 MB of memory only. Okay, so yeah, now that one, that pod is particularly that pod is terminated, that's why it's not showing. So if we try to just uh, increase the memory, so if I just try to here increase the limit to 256, and we'll just apply again, okay, it's forbidden, we need to first delete that particular pod, then we can do I think memory demo. Now let's just apply, and if we do top pods, wait, let me just do the get pods. Memory demo is coming over here. Okay, maybe it will take some few minute of time, so you can see memory demos. Now you can see the cpu core how much it's using, and also you can see how much memory it's using. So whatever we have assigned 200 memory, 200 MB of memory, so that much it's showing over here. And also what you can do, instead of checking the pods, you can also check for the nodes, like how much memory and cpu nodes are using. So you can see in our case it's just using 206 of millicore, that is 2%, and memory also you can see that is the 30% of memory. So if I also do the kubectl get nodes and describe node, you can see the node details also over here, like how much capacity, you can see what is assigned to it, like cpu weight, ephemeral storage, and all, how much memory and how many pods you can run at this particular node. Okay, so this is about basically your request and limit, guys. So in the next video we'll cover about the limit range and the resource quota. So that is also an important concept to like what you can say, to control your application. Okay, so yeah, this is about this request and limit, and subscribe the channel and follow me for such more videos, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any question, just comment.